man them coming out.
He called him by his name, Lazarus. Where is him? Oh, sorry.
All right, you guys, we are back here with the state of the black media here with Brother Takuna. And we want you to introduce yourself to the show.
Marja Broussard, resident of Lafayette, community activist, president of NAACP. Hopefully a mover and a shaker sometimes.
Okay, yeah.
Has to keep me in place sometimes. Angry about a lot of things that's going on in the African American community.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And sometimes I let my anger get the best of me, but with great leaders like Takuna, Janelle Shagwar, John Milton, Brother Jay.
It kind of keeps you centered, huh? Balanced.
They keep me out of jail.
Fighting spirit. Yes.
Yeah, Brother Takuna calls it a fighting spirit.
Okay. Now, as we were talking about black media, and when we were off air, I just was explaining something to him about when we were talking about the phrase "black on black crime," and I did a show on my radio station about it. And the person I was talking to, I'm thinking he's conscious brother. He brought it up, so I started throwing statistics at him about black on black crime. Like you said, it's a fallacy. There's no such thing as black on black crime. But because the white media labeled it, we take it in and we believe it. We believe that we're the worst criminals on this earth. And that's not only just in the nationwide, that's all over the world. Because if you notice all over the world, everybody is attacking African Americans all over the place. No matter where they live, they're being attacked, persecuted for just being black. So when you look at that, the concept of what we're being taught here needs to be changed, where we get the message out, wait a minute, you're not a criminal, so you don't have to act like a criminal. We're not going to allow you to act like a criminal. We're not going to put resources in your neighborhoods to give you that opportunity to act like a criminal. We're going to bring jobs in. We're going to bring in educational things that's going to uplift you and make you feel good about yourselves. And those are the simple things that are missing out of the African American community. And because we've come to this point where we're so selfish, we're all about self-gain, and we have issues with bringing ourselves together. And when we do come together, there's always, like you said, those cooneries. There's always one coon in the group that you have to be careful when you say you want to meet with somebody, you want to social, you want to do that, because there's always a coon in a group that's going back telling. Yeah. That's the issue that I have. Well, it's not really an issue. It's something we need to be able to sense.
Yeah.
I think it's okay for the coonery and the moles and whatnot to be, in the mix of us. Mm-hmm. What's important is that we stay focused, regardless of what they do, that we stay focused for us.
Exactly. But sometimes that's hard. That can be hard at times when they have influence. And when I say that, when they have influence with the oppressor. And if they can go back and tell the oppressor, okay, guess what? They got a new radio show. They got a new television show. Did you see it? Then all of a sudden you got competition that wasn't there before, don't even care about you. But all of a sudden now you have TV shows, you have radio shows, you have all these different things that's coming about that's starting to interfere or take away the attention from the main people we're trying to get in. Yeah. Okay, we have a caller on line one. Good afternoon, caller. Hello?
Yes, ma'am. I want to say, Sister, it's a very good program, Sister Marja, Brother Takuna. And I wanted to, that y'all brought up a really good point about that there's not just black on black crime, but Vietnamese on Vietnamese crime. You name it, they have it. And I know, like, as many people as we have that's incarcerated, that's under the offices where you have, they're doing like from 99 years, 20 years, 30 years. You have white-collar crime that just about have shut down a whole segment of society with the Madoff, with the SNL scandals, almost $1 billion, and that's these white boys with these neckties, you know, that goes and they just steal things, and Congress will come up and say, well, you know, since you're my colleague, I'm going to go ahead and do a forgiveness of loan. Exactly. So if we put, like, what the definition of a real criminal, it would shock those that are not conscious.
Exactly.
Because we know that nobody can disrupt an entire economy the way white men in their necktie do automatically. And I wanted to tell y'all, thank y'all so much. And Sister Margie, can you talk up a little bit? I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
I would like to respond, you know, to that caller, you know, in this way, and to your previous thoughts and questions that you had relative to black-on-black crime. That's, again, a European concept. It's a manufactured phrase to, again, socially engineer us into thoughts and behavior that we then become the major facilitators of, you know, because we don't know better. And that's, again, the importance of black media. First of all, statistically, you would see that every other group of people, whether it be Asian, Mexicans, or whatever, 80% of major crimes are committed against any group of people by a member of that group.
That's exactly
so right. When you got Chinese people, you got 80% of the major crimes are committed against Chinese people or Chinese people, Japanese people, Japanese people, Mexican people, Mexican people. So that's a fallacy. So where does the concept black-on-black crime comes from? It's a Eurocentric precept that, again, is rooted in manifesting or furthering the control of black people and their perception of themselves through the system of white supremacy. So now when you have an opportunity to deal with your people, and I would say to our people every opportunity I get, not only do I debunk their perception of us in terms of black-on-black crime, but I say there is no black-on-black crime. I refuse to accept the fact that there's black-on-black crime. What you have in black communities, you have black on Negro crime, you have black on nigger crime, you have nigger on nigger crime, you have Negro on Negro crime. And I say that because who made the nigger, who made the Negro, who made the colored person, who made the self-hater? It is the white man who produced a system of condition of self-hatred that makes us act that way. And that's why I say the term causal determinacy comes, we must keep that term always in the back of our mind because it gets to the why. So you don't have black-on-black crime because black people who are truly black people have reached a level of understanding of civilization and they don't behave that way. So therefore, we are not black people creating crimes on black people. We have been reduced or educated or engineered away from ourselves. So there is no cultural appreciation. There is no historical appreciation. Therefore, we are lacking the cohesiveness to produce the kind of economics we need because of those two things. Culture and history is important in order for you to produce an economic system. Because an economic system is rooted in relationships. And if we live in a culture that teaches you black-on-black crime, you fear black people, you fear the black man, you cannot do economics or perform any type of economic venture with people you don't trust or you think you don't need to trust or can't trust. So black media can play a part in terms of giving out a different message and understanding that if you're at a Negro stage, go back and do the work and elevate yourself to a black consciousness, to an African consciousness of yourself. Quit being what the white man made you. We need to quit acting out of the context of what white folks made us when we use the word nigger in reference to ourselves. Because that's an internalized acceptance of what white folks made us to be. So when we act that way, but then another black man who sees another black man who has no perception of himself as a black man, but sees another nigger, a nigger kill another nigger. A nigger doesn't educate himself. A nigger does not do economics with other people. A nigger is mistrustful. A nigger is dangerous. You see? So when you have white media create these kinds of perception after a condition that white supremacy has orchestrated in our community, and then you have no political impetus in terms of influx of economic ventures, educational ventures, to address that situation, because we are not perceived as valued human beings.
That's right.
You see, so you have to go back to the cause and determinacy, the why. When you see all of these things in our community, and I get a little frustrated with some of us who build careers and build status and leadership, just constantly regurgitating what white folks have created in us, and they have no solution. You say, Negro, please. You know, if you're a politician, there is enough evidence that comes before you every day to see the inconsistency in terms of how the monies in our communities are being used, the unfair balance in terms of what is emphasized socially, what is emphasized culturally. So when we are true leaders and we understand our black selves and we love our black selves, regardless in what position we're in, whether it be political, whether it be spiritual, whether we be a teacher, whether we be a lawyer, whether we be just an average entrepreneur, whether we be a housewife or just a husband, you know, we would do what is necessary for the interest of ourselves and our kind and our people. Now that does not make you anti-white, anti-blue, anti-green. It just makes intelligence. Duck take care of ducks, chicken take care of chickens. Both of them are fowl. They might be in the same yard, but you ain't gonna catch no chicken trying to act and cackle like and quack like a duck.
That's right. That's a perfect. I like that. And the other thing, I'm glad you said that. When you think about the ideal that politicians, we elect them, we put them in place to be able to be a voice for us, and they turn around and they get in those positions, and you're sitting there waiting for them to do what we said we elected them to, like that they were going to do. So you have to look at the political side of it, because a lot of people holler, politics is not in everything, but politics literally is in everything. Everything you do, politics is it has a way of affecting it. So when you don't have the right people, you got those people that you were talking about in those positions to really do what they say they're going to do, that's another way to help the community. But when they're not doing it, then we have what we have, like we have in Alexandria, for instance. We have an area we call Lower Third, which is the Lower Third Street, where all African Americans are African American community. We have no grocery stores down there. We have a city council member who's our color, I'm African American, and this has been going on for years. So what do we do with that city councilman? We've been begging you to see if we could get a grocery store down here so people don't have to go so far, because it's a poor neighborhood, it's an impoverished neighborhood. And when you have a mayor that spends money in the other side of town, like you said, the allocation of funds, they're not being put where they're supposed to, or placed or used in the proper manner. You have this, and you thinking when you put this elected official in that position to do the job that he's supposed to, and he doesn't, then you have a lot of, like you said, people who just give up. They don't know who they are because there's nobody there telling them, you are this person. You don't have to do this. Here's the resources for you to better yourself. We don't have that. And it's bad that it seems like it's only in the African American neighborhoods. So do you think that is a purposeful thing that's being done when it comes to us, or is it a random situation?
I think it's a calculated effort against the African American community, and sadly for us, we become complacent with that.
Yes.
Brother Takuna said, I have a fighting spirit, which I really do. And it'd be great if I had 100 people with the same type of spirit. You could really make some moves and make some changes in your community. You know, the politicians, which is what they are, come into our communities, they promise a whole lot, and they deliver very little.
That's right.
You know, just before the show, a very good friend of mine, a wise brother, you know, a conscious brother, that brought me to the show. Actually, we had a conversation, and we talked about something similar. And I gave an analogy in terms of how they condition us to respond to people that are not prepared or not adequately committed to our cause. And I gave him an analogy, and I said, brother, if the plumbing under your sink in your house burst and water was gushing out, you call and tell me about it. I can call and direct you and tell you where there's a cutoff valve so you can immediately stop the flow of water. That doesn't solve his problem. That's just the first aid. That's just a first responders deal. So you cut off the water. Now, if the brother needs plumbing work done and other damage has been done to the house, and he asked me to send him someone, and I send him a professional. And I said, brother, I'm going to send you a professional. This professional has been a professional now for 20 years, some, and he is actually receiving 6 figures. He's a professional. But I sent him over an electrician, and he needs a plumber. You know? But my argument is that I sent you a professional. You know, what does that do in terms of addressing his need?
Exactly.
How can an electrician who doesn't know, perhaps in this case, doesn't know the difference between a wire and a pipe,
exactly,
and a PVC pipe? Exactly. You see, so how does that address his problem? What white folks do to us, they create leaders that are not adequately prepared to address our needs and concerns.
Exactly.
You have black folks who are less than black in their thinking and commitment, that are elevated by white media, by the white supremacist system to serve as leaders for us. So when we have a problem, when we have a cry in the community for immediate action, we have to appeal to someone who is not adequately prepared to address our concerns. So oftentimes when they are not adequately prepared to address our concern, what usually happens? We usually are directed to the church, to the minister, who's going to calm the natives.
Exactly.
You know, and they're going to give us some spooky concept of God and give us some spooky concept of Jesus, because somebody in some mystery realm is going to take care of your problem. Let me tell the brother that if he calls me and tells me about his plumbing problem, don't worry about it. Jesus is going to fix it. You know, that he would not at any time consider me for a reference next time he has a problem.
Exactly.
You see, and we have this kind of issue, you know, in our community. We have talented people, but we have talented people that are not using their talents for specific needs and concerns for our people.
That's why it's important that we have to raise our leaders ourselves from within. We have to give them the best of the best, and we have to be able to take care of them to the extent where they remain faithful to us, because they're not threatened by losing their jobs or losing their status.
Exactly.
We have to raise them from us.
Exactly. All right, you guys, we're going to take a break, and we shall return with more The State of the Black Media.
Title to a photographer. See, so we know it's going on. So we need your help. See, so we can take this up. No, not just here, up. We need to move it up, out, all over the place. So we need your support. We need you to come with us, not just in New Iberia. When we go down to Ville Platte, when we're in St. Martinville, when we're in Abbeville, we need y'all to come with us. Because this is an all our problem. All our problem. Everybody, because my son should impact everybody in here, because it could be your son next. It could be your daughter, your cousin, your uncle, your brother. So therefore, don't let it happen to you so you can say, I'm going to get involved. Get involved because it has happened to you. We really appreciate you. Again, you know, we still, because we have no resolution, even though all three of those entities have said that they can't conclusively say that someone else pulled the trigger on my son, right? They can't say conclusively someone else did it. See, but yet and still, those individuals that were there, they didn't balloon them, they didn't print them, because they said the reason why they did not do any balloon them, because they deal with weapons every day. Isn't that something? So that's why they didn't balloon the officers, test them, because of the fact that they said that they deal with firearms every day. See, so we knew from the beginning, we need y'all support. We're not going to stop until we get justice. And not just for my son, but we're talking about justice for every Victor White III. For every Victor White III, every individual that is afraid. And there are some people in New Iberia, you're afraid. That's why we got Facebook, we got Twitter, we got a website. So if you're really afraid, go on the website, send us something, and we'll...
for almost $500,000. Michael Jones was awarded, you get the language? Michael Jones was awarded $61,000 in a wrongful death. The killers, this is Michael Jones. Michael Jones was beaten. Who gonna hold it? Okay, yeah. And Michael Jones was beaten by the wrestling brothers, Wesley Hayes and Jesse James Hayes. Look, these are the two that's right there. Show it. I want you to see who they are. Right here, Assistant Warden, and right here, and right here. Okay, this is showing you corrupt crime at its finest. Organized crime at its finest. So we could identify, a lot of times when people commit crimes, we don't have a visual of what they look like. We've passed papers around so that you could see them, identify them, so that you know who we are dealing with. Corrupted crooks here in our area. And also, we want to thank each and every one for coming out. Really, we can't be successful without the people behind us. And how you become successful is being a registered voter, a registered voter. Brother Donald is going to say something right now.
Hey family, what I have here before me right here, this is the actual indictment of Ackle and Gerald Savoy. It's 8 pages long. If you want to find it, you can go to the
All
U.S.
right, you guys, we are back here with the State of the Black Media, and we grabbed up another panelist. Would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Hi, my name is Susanna Johnson Malbrough, and I'm happy to be joining you guys.
All right, we're welcome to have you here. Okay, did you want to mention some events that are coming up, Sister Margie?
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone knows about the horrific killing of Ashley Metz and Brooklyn Hill. There's going to be a vigil on this evening at 6 p.m. at Gethsemane Church in memory of Ashley, those victims. Also, there's going to be a meeting at Southern Consumers 1006 Surrey Street on Monday at 6:30 p.m. Now, we're pleased that law enforcement has made arrests. Law enforcement has made arrests in the killing connected to Ashley and Brooklyn. The meeting that was going to be on Monday was a Who Killed These Young People campaign. But we know that there's still a lot of crime that riddles our community every single day. So that meeting will still go on. We're going to have a plan of action, and we want those people who are interested in doing something more than vigils and marches and protests and rallies to come out and get involved as we try to take care of us.
Exactly.
That's my motto. We have to take care of us.
It's kind of like taking back our communities and taking ownership of our communities. And, you know, as Marja and I were talking earlier, it is about putting a plan of action together to see what we can do to stop the violence in our own community. I know you were mentioning earlier about, you know, folks, you know, end up getting in a particular position, they kind of move on. I actually think it's more of a grassroots movement that happens. You know, I mean, while you have folks, you know, some of the politicians that have their own agenda, which is to remain being a politician.
Exactly.
You know, unfortunately, their focus is not so much on, you know, the grassroots efforts, the things that are happening, you know, to, you know, the gist of the community, their constituents.
Exactly.
You know, so I think what we're looking to do, as Marja and I talked earlier, you know, it is about, you know, having the grassroots, you know, put a plan of action together, and then just start, you know, seeing what it is that we can do, you know, to help stop the violence in our community.
Exactly, exactly. Now, when we're talking about black media, as we were talking about earlier, what are we? The question is, I guess I'm going to ask the panel, what are we looking for? What does black media represent to you?
Well, in its ideal performance or function, black media is supposed to represent an independent, truthful perspective in view of concerns of black people, their events and activities. It's supposed to give us at least an opportunity to show a truthful side of who we are, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So it is not against anyone, but it's progressively reporting objectively news that is in our community, as well as entertainment. It's supposed to produce laughter. It's supposed to inform. It's supposed to motivate. It's supposed to also instruct. We're supposed to learn from viewing black media. The disproportionate misuse of white media and the lack of black media leaves us in a very difficult situation as a black people to get a true perspective of what news is, what perspectives are really centering around the events in our community. One would be as to what was said earlier in terms of black politicians and their disconnect to the black community. Well, black media can be used, first of all, to motivate them to do what they need to do.
Exactly.
You see, we already know that most likely, in most situations, if they're in a political position, they're limited in terms of any real raw power.
Exactly.
But if black media truly exists in our community as it should, we could create a condition or atmosphere where we can give our public officials that are willing, that are bold, that are brave, that are knowledgeable, and that are willing, we can create an atmosphere to give them indirect power, which means indirect power sometimes is more powerful than raw power. We don't have the raw power to vote on any issues and win, not in a so-called democratic process. That's ridiculous. That's a losing proposition. So to have a token person on any type of political level that represents our interests and has no power to do anything about it is just that. It's useless.
Exactly.
So, but with black media, we can create the kind of energy in our community that would support that black official who is serious about the concerns of our community. In supporting that official would have to acquaint themselves with the details of the concerns and the events and the aspirations of the black community, therefore making his position valuable to us and making him or her more potent or valuable to the structure in which he belongs to, because it won't be just the individual politician that the white supremacist engine would be dealing with. They would have to deal with the reaction of the people.
Exactly.
This is again why black media is stifled. Black media is watered down. Black media is not given the kind of value that it should. So they cannot say we cannot have media because, again, the laws of the land say you got to have freedom of expression. You got your right to speak, right? So they control not that. They don't tell us that we can't speak. They just control who speaks for us.
That's right.
Through their media.
That's right.
You see, so black media has to be more than just a robot mimicking what white folks' reality create for us.
That's right.
We have to be in a position to create, to mold precepts and ideas for ourselves and project that to our people and live with the consequences, good, bad, or ugly.
That's right. That's right.
No, one thing I think of immediately is when Brother Takuna was saying, what does black media do? Educate is definitely one of them. When there was the mass shooting in Orlando recently, every media outlet claimed that it was the worst killing in U.S. history. I had a couple of speaking engagements since then, and I spoke about that. And I asked people in the audience, how many people know about Tulsa, Oklahoma and Black Wall Street, where thousands of black people were killed? How many people know about Rosewood? How many people know about 22 miles down the road, Opelousas, where 300 African Americans were killed? And maybe one or two people knew about that. That's something that black media can bring to our people.
Exactly.
Or the 100 lynchings of Louisiana.
What is your opinion on how do you see
Well,
black media?
I'm actually going to take that, that view because I do have a publication. I publish the Southern View magazine. It is an online publication. You know, it's not an extremely large publication, but it does reach out, you know, a number of different people. But, you know, just thinking back to when I started it, it was in print, okay? But I did run into some of the challenges that most black media run into. The lack of support, you know, via advertisements. The articles and all was definitely not a challenge, but to keep it in print, you know, definitely, you know, the support would come from, you know, African American businesses, you know, as I wanted it to be, you know, the gist of supporting it. But that didn't happen, you know, so I had it in print for about a year. You know, then due to some changes in my life, you know, I had to put the magazine on a back burner. But then I still had that burning desire, you know, to, you know, get that publication out and talk about, you know, the things that I wanted to talk about in this particular publication. So in December, I did bring it back as an online publication, you know, and it is about educating. It is about educating the community. It's about telling the stories, but I take it from a different perspective because, you know, what I wanted to do was talk about positive stories, positive things happening in the African American community because I saw that lacking. You know, there aren't many black publications in the Lafayette area. There's really not much in print. You'll probably see some, you know, publications online, but there's really nothing in print. So the only other thing you'd see is through the mass media where there's just a lot of negativity about blacks. And you know, from my perspective, I just wanted to focus in on something that was more positive, that would even help to motivate and inspire our youth, and that's my goal. And I focus in on just those positive stories. I choose to not focus on anything negative because there's enough of that already. Now, if I had like the manpower to put, you know, a publication in print, I would definitely be looking at putting something in print that would, even having a staff to cover both. What are the negatives that are going on, you know, the challenges, you know, more that we're facing, but lack of, you know, funding and support of that, you know, that's not a reality for me. So, you know, it's really it's a free publication. It's almost like a one-man operation, and my goal is to do exactly what it's doing. And I think I do get a lot of positive feedback from folks in the community. They want more of it. I have people that are calling me, texting me, inboxing me, you know, hey, I have a story, can you feature this? Can you feature that? So it focuses in on education, it focuses economic development, the culture, you know, of African Americans in the South, leadership as well, or even lack thereof. So it covers a lot, spirituality, and then the people in the community.
Exactly.
You know, so like I said, that's what I want to do. You know, because that's not there.
Yeah. Okay. All right, you guys, we got a call. Oh, we did have a call. I guess we took too long. Oh, here we go. Hello, welcome to the show.
Good evening, sisters and brothers. Listen, I definitely enjoying the show. Look, one of the points I want to make, Brother Takuna, is how asleep at the wheel we as black folks here in America are after so many years of being under white supremacy. And the reality in the black communities across America is that we don't want to admit that we've been beaten into the central purpose of believing everything that the media puts out. Look at this. We are exploited by the media. We are also stimulated by the media, if you want to use those words together. Brother Takuna, after I make my comments, I want you to speak to that. I'm going to try to keep it brief without being so convoluted on the issue. Look at how locally this tragedy with this family has been milked to the utmost core by the local media. Now, granted the fact that we have these things happen, but yet the media feel that it has to cover it over and over and over again. and it paints a picture of the black community being nothing but criminals, nothing but bad things happening. Everything that leads at the 6 o'clock news is more people being locked up, more pictures of black men being put in orange jumpsuits, those type of things. And then we go to the black media, which is non-existent. In this area, we don't have any type of conscious, progressive media. We have media that's nothing more than some people who are for being assimilated into other people's culture. So this is why we'll never move 1 inch in the black community ahead and doing something positive for our people. And I want you to speak to that because, you know, the reality is we don't want to deal with reality, you know? It's like the twilight zone in the black community when it comes to media. Look at these stations here in this area. So many R&B stations. Maybe 1 or 2 owned, wholly black owned. And when those who are wholly black owned, they eliminate any conscious talk shows, any kind of conscious media shows. So our people do not want to deal with the reality that they're no more than some media slaves for the big corporations, and we are no more than one of their playlists in life. That's my comment, Brother Takuna. I hope you could speak to that. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Well, let's start with the second references that you made to the media and the content in which the media actually represents for us. One being, I think that when we look at the tragedy that just took place in our community and how the media is covering it and seem to be eager to cover it, would they have the same level of eagerness if it had been discovered that a white person had committed the crime?
Exactly.
That's where you begin to see the different degrees in coverage and emphasis in terms of our concerns. In this situation, it is good media news because it emphasizes the unfortunate conditions that sometimes occur in our community. So you have what the white media refer to as black on black crime.
Yeah.
You see, without actually going to the why.
Exactly.
So it's media news for the white supremacist media. So now when you have a white person who walks into a church and shoots 9 people, not only do the media covers it sporadically, but the judge inside the courtroom suggests that there should be empathy and sympathy for the shooter because there are victims on both sides. This was a white media perception.
Right.
And then they take the emotions and the heartfelt sympathy and empathy of a mother and family members who says, "I forgive you," using that statement and the misguided spirituality as a media frenzy to blast out, "This is what you're supposed to do, black folk. When we kill you, you give it to Jesus and we forgive."
Exactly.
See, this is what they do to us. Now, if this was 9 white folks killed in a white church and a black person done the shooting, first of all, no white folks would allow any black person to sit down there into their church without being frisked, without being, investigated. There's no way in the world. But we're such a loving people, and we miscalculate the evilness in our midst.
Yes.
So the media perhaps would have gone overboard and describing this as a terrorist act. You see, but they interpret it totally different. This is a lone wolf, shooter. They don't want to connect it to anything negative.
That's right.
So in our case with this local tragedy here, I wonder what would be the emphasis if the shooter or the killer in this case, were white. Then you look at the responsibility of black media. When we take a position that we need to cover our people in the community. Well, we got to cover the good, the bad, and the ugly.
That's right.
When we deal with only one aspect of our community, we deny authenticity to our people in terms of a full view. I'm aware of your magazine, as you know, but I think that when we deal with public perception, when we just elevate the good deeds of a white reality that we've been conditioned to, that's not necessarily good news for us. And we need to be very clear on that our people through black media needs to be informed, needs to be educated, needs to be stimulated, needs to be directed. That's part of the inherent responsibility of black media. And when we fail to do that, then because it's difficult, because we don't get the advertising dollars, or because we're going to have some pushback, then that media does not serve any real significant purpose, for us. Not if you're going to ignore or choose not to dwell in the degree of concerns that our black people have in our communities. So any form of black media, whether it be radio, television, newspaper, have to know that their responsibility is that broad. And if they're not willing to engage on that level with our people, then the reaction to that form of media is going to be soft, is going to be energizing the mindset of those who we have problems with right now.
Exactly.
Don't want to get involved in the black community. Don't want to hear or do anything. Now, is it negative to report an unjust killing in our community? Is it negative to report the police brutality in our community? Is it negative to report the unscrupulous behavior of some politicians in our community? Is it negative to discuss the false base of the spirituality that exists in our community with the exploitation of black people through the churches? Is it negative to discuss that we fill churches every Sunday to the brim? We fill collection boxes, and then on Monday morning we go to the white man's bank and we deposit all of our money, but then on Sunday we condition emotionally to give all of our problems to some spooky concept of God. Is that negative or is that informative? Is that productive? Is that intelligent or is that negative? So we have to take all forms of our media and we have to deal with the good, the bad, and the ugly. But we can't define good based on white Eurocentric standard of what is good. What is good to them is what is non-threatening to them. What is good to them is what is non-progressive in our interpretation of things. So we have to be able to understand, that the media, again, is one of the most dangerous tools to white supremacy.
Exactly.
Because it has the potential to shape the thoughts and the concept of those who read, watch, or read the forms of media that is out there. And that's why I say that, we need a media hub that is going to be committed to the totality of reflecting what is going on in our communities.
Exactly.
And that does not mean we can't report weddings. That does not mean that we can't report, scholastic kind of achievements. That does not mean that we can't uplift and serve as an inspirational source for our people when something is good in our community. But we can't be irresponsible enough to think that perception alone, when you got killing going on everywhere else in your community, that somehow you got some sanitized condition there.
Yeah.
Oftentimes many of us do well under tremendous odds against us. Both sides needs to be demonstrated through our forms of media.
Exactly.
The thing that I see when we again talk about black media is the lack of black media. Because I know years ago, like Takuna used to have like the Rising Seed, You know, you had a focus, a direction on the topics that you wanted to cover. And there were other publications that are out there, Southern Consumers. You know, at one point, Denny Cravens had one,
Right.
Ruth Foote. I mean, there were a number of publications out there. I'm not sure why. I don't even know if Southern Consumers is still out there. But each publication does, in fact, have their focus, their target audience. And I think if we did have more, maybe it would be good to, you know, bring the Rising Seed back. I think I challenged Takuna about that several months ago. You know, maybe we would have enough media in the community to cover all aspects of it. And that's why I said, you know, with all of the negativity out there, you know, that's my right, my decision, you know, to focus in on what it is that I want to. I don't have like a daily publication, you know, that would be out there covering every event. It's a bi-monthly publication, you know, and it does exactly what it's intended to do. Again, for me, if I had the means to publish something on a daily basis, I'd probably cover all aspects of everything that's going on in our community. But that's not the reality. So the other thing too is that when you look at black media, the reason, you know, many of them are not surviving is, again, that lack of advertising dollars. And where does that advertising dollar needs to come from? Mainly from the African American community. So if we're looking to cover some of the things that Takuna was just talking about, it is about the African American community stepping up to the plate and investing in the media. I think we'd be able to see more black media in our community. And I do agree that there should be a black media hub, you know, where folks can, you know, that's right, network, pull that together, and then we really be able to see exactly what folks are actually covering, what needs to be covered, and it would be twofold. You know, covering a lot of the tragedies that go on. How do you end up stopping the violence? You know, and I know everybody's got like a different take on, you know, the violence and where does it come from. You know, I actually think that it's our responsibility to stop it. It's not, my focus is not so much on maybe where it came from, and I know some folks don't believe in that, but to me it's like, if we don't mobilize our community and say, hey, black folks, you know, it's your responsibility to do something to stop that violence, then it continues. And it's been going on. I reminded Marja about my friend Jamie that was murdered by her boyfriend in St. Martinville, you know, and it's an ongoing thing, you know, ongoing that it does, in fact, it needs to stop. Because if we don't, you know, the black community doesn't do anything to stop it, and I don't want to use that term come together, because we've been doing this come together thing that, you know, just doesn't happen, doesn't last. You know, folks come together, you know, and want to talk about, you know, what it is that we need to be doing. But my thing is not so much about the talking. What do we say? It's about taking some action and putting a plan together and sticking with it. Because, you know, the challenge that I've seen in our community is for the blacks actually to work together, to trust each other enough to stay at the table. We do well coming to the table, but we don't stay at the table.
But see, that goes back to, that goes back to what Brother Takuna, said. When we don't trust each other, that's because that's been indoctrinated into us, that we don't trust each other. Because all we see is all the bad things about us. We don't see the positive things that we do. We see all the bad things. We don't see us taking care of each other.
But we know that.
We know that, but then that's when you come in to educate people to say, okay, yeah, you know it, so now let's do something about it.
You know, in addition to that, if you make the sacrifices to stay in it for the long haul, to be a part of the movement, then you're there, and that's where trust is built. But we're such a reactionary people that when something happens, we're there, lighting our candles, protesting, whatever it takes. But for the long haul, we just don't do that. And we say, because it's a trust issue, we say what it is, but how can you build a trustful relationship if you're not there, if you're absent? And I want to say right quickly about the media. We talk about advertisement, black advertisement. I did work with KJCB for years, and black businesses will come to us for I don't know if I could say this. Discount.
Oh, yeah, discounts.
Yes. And then they'll have the audacity to ask the black radio stations to do something at no cost, but they'll bring their black dollars to white media.
Exactly.
You know, and that's a problem. And that speaks to all of our black businesses dying in our community. Yeah. It speaks volumes to that.
Exactly.
Again, I want to go to the phrase, causal determinants. Because what I just heard is nothing but symptoms. Mm-hmm. What's the cause of the sickness? Yeah. And both of what is being said, certainly, is correct. But what's the cause of the sickness? When my teachings, from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad tells me that when you go out to make an impact on a community or to change or develop a community, you don't go into that community and put up a building here, put up a building there, or even have an influx of monies, because that is not going to improve the community. Exactly. You improve the community by instilling a proper knowledge of themselves. When that people develop a level of understanding and acceptance of themselves, they will begin to automatically to use the necessary intelligence that's innate to them to begin to create institutions and behaviors that are necessary for their survival within that community. Exactly. We are dealing with the people who are lacking in the knowledge of themselves. We are dealing with people who have monies that they're getting from capitulating to a white supremacist system. So even when they get the monies, they're not coming to the black community, build no business, and they're not going to support no black business. So now those of us who are involved, I don't think it's a surprise to me or anybody who is significantly involved in the black community and knowing the condition of our people, that we don't place a value on our enterprises as we should. Again, that's a symptom. The question is, what's the cause? We don't place that. So that if I'm going to start a business and I'm going to say that business is in the black community, and it's based on black values, and I am servicing a people who don't perceive themselves as valued black people, then there is no black value that's going to emanate from that community. So it is a risk that black folks take when we set up businesses in our community under the auspices of black businesses with a white mind. And then we reinforce what the white supremacist system tells us is that black folks don't support black folks. Create something black and appeal to the black nature of black people, and you will find that black people will support. What prevents us from being successful in our black businesses is that we, as Sister Margie indicated, when you have a perceivingly black-owned business, like in the radio station, and we have such a devalued perspective of ourselves, then we're not going to bring the dollars there, because in the back of our minds is sometime in the front of our minds. We don't see the value in that business collectively to our interest. So therefore we value white business. We don't want to value this business because this business doesn't reach so many, or this radio station is an AM station, this other station is a PM station. We don't see the lack of energy in our community and say, let's galvanize and increase that energy. Exactly. That's a weak business. Let's galvanize and make that business stronger. We look to compare ourselves to the white Eurocentric standard, and we don't have the same access to funding, to political and to social means in order to elevate ourselves. So it's a losing proposition from the beginning when we think like that. So whenever we plan and organize, it is always saddening for me to hear black folks say, we got to stick together and this is what we're going to do. And the first thing comes out of their mouth is everything other than black. Because the value of their existence is rooted in white Eurocentric existence. Exactly. So as long as that condition exists, how are you going to emanate any black value or black reaction or group response that's going to cause us to act collectively for one another? And I'm going to say this in quick. Look at black folks in the political arena.
Okay.
When we see our interests clearly, okay? Even though it was, in this kid's situation, it was manufactured. But when Edwards ran and David Duke ran for office, we perceived Edwards as the God and David Duke as the devil. So we went to the poll in droves to vote for Edwards, not for Edwards, but against Duke. We went to the polls because white folks convinced us that if we have a black president, that all of a sudden our condition is going to change. So we went to the poll and drove over symbolic historical event that is going to be the first black president. But the first black president won't even deal with any black issues directly.
Exactly right.
He just yesterday created an opportunity for the gay and lesbian community to occupy some building in New York and to celebrate National Lesbian and Gay Day. You see? Wow. So now this is what he's doing. But yet, that's okay if that's what he wants to do. But then you can't utter the word reparations. You know, you can't, you're going to tell black folks when they raise up issues that take off your bed slippers and your night clothes and get up and go work. You know, this is what we have to understand. White folks give us either symbolism, or they give us dead people, or they give us their ideology to follow in terms of when we organize and do business.
Exactly.
And we got to be more politically matured and